Welcome to Adventures in Accessibility, a podcast that explores the far reaches of disability, access, and inclusion, with your host, Emily Schumann.
Welcome back, everyone, and thanks for joining us. Today's guest is Charles Webb, founder of the Stoke for Life Foundation. The main goal of the Stoke for Life Foundation is to bring awareness to the rehabilitative benefits of adaptive water sports through clinics and education. Charles is a T7 through 8 incomplete paraplegic and is the first paraplegic to compete in an open water paddle race, the 2013 Battle of the Paddle. Charles is also the two-time Western Surfing Association Adaptive Surfing champion, winning back-to-back titles in 2015 and 2016. He placed second overall in the Surfing America 2016 U.S. National Adaptive Surfing Championship in his division. Charles is an experienced inspirational speaker on many levels, from motivational corporate presentations to inspirational speeches at the collegiate, high school, or elementary level. Charles has shared the Stoke wherever possible. Charles has also written numerous published articles in various magazines telling the stories of everyday people that continue to overcome and achieve despite high-level disabilities or ailments. Through adaptive competition, motivational speaking, and inspirational writing, Charles has found avenues to bring awareness to the adaptive water sports movement. All right. Well, hey, Charles, thanks so much for being on our podcast. We're so excited to have you.
Thanks for inviting me. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to share.
Yeah, our pleasure. So tell us a little bit about your organization, Stoke for Life.
Stoke for Life is geared around ocean therapy. We like to get disabled people in the water and give them the opportunity to get healed by the ocean. We also do advancements in water sports equipment with different shapers and different equipment builders. And we also advocate for accessibility in our beach and waterway communities.
Yeah. And, next good question for you is I'd love to know a little bit more about you and your disability and how that's informed your work and the foundation.
Sure. I'm a T78 incomplete paraplegic. I don't have any mobility below the waist, but I do have a lot of sensation. I was injured when I was 19 years old on a motorcycle. It was a car accident versus a motorcycle, and obviously I came out on the losing end of that battle. But being 19 and injured, I thought, my whole life was surfing, and I thought that that had all been taken away from me. And many years later, I had come across a guy named Kavika Watt, and he had developed what was called an on-ability board, and that was a paddle board with a wheelchair on top of it and outriggers, and gave people the ability to paddle. Fortunately for me, I was the first one to try the prototype, and I was kind of the guinea pig for the on-ability board, and doing all of the R&D on the board before we introduced it to any public. Before it got introduced to the public, I actually did an open water paddleboard race on it in 2013, which was called Battle of the Paddle. Unbeknownst to me, Battle of the Paddle was the biggest paddleboard race in the world. I was it was kind of ignorance is bliss. I just signed up for it and thought, maybe like 50 people would show up or something like that. But I got there and there was about 6,000 people on the beach, and I raced in the open group race against 488 able-bodied people. I was the second disabled person to do the race. I was the first paraplegic to ever do it, but Ryan Levinson, who has muscular dystrophy, was actually the first adaptive athlete. He did the first Battle of the Paddle, and I did the sixth Battle of the Paddle. So two adaptive athletes ended up doing it, but I happened to be the first paraplegic that ever did it. And that kind of launched my adaptive sports career. All the pictures and the videos kind of went viral. And a lot of people reached out to me on social media about how they could, design something like that, or where could they buy one, or and that kind of turned into me mentoring and talking to people about equipment. And then I got introduced to Steve Bainey from Infinity Surfboards, which he was the designer of the original adaptive wave ski. In 1999, he had developed an adaptive wave ski for a guy named Freddie Carrillo, who's another paraplegic. And I was fortunate enough to meet Steve in 2013, and Steve took me surfing and got me on a wave ski, and I started surfing at that point. And yeah, then I just never looked back. It was more along the lines of more people I could mentor and competing around the world. And, started with the WSA, the Western Surfing Association, and competing at their level, and then competing in national events and doing the ISA Parasurfing Championship, and going to Hawaii and doing the Hawaiian Adaptive Surfing Championship. And meanwhile, I kept paddleboarding. I just stayed connected to the SUP industry and kept doing a bunch of races in the Hano Hano, and did Battle of the Paddle again in 2014, and Pacific Paddle Games, and done a number of SUP races over the years and tried to stay connected, the Mongoose Cup, and just kept staying on the paddleboard and kept surfing. And that just turned into Stoke for Life. So many people reached out to me, and at the time I was working a corporate job, and I couldn't really do both. I couldn't really work and train and represent my country at the ISA level in 2015, and kind of stay in a corporate job. So I chose to start a nonprofit, and just basically the thought was, how can I help these people on a higher level? And I couldn't do it while I was working a corporate job. I had to quit my job and start a nonprofit, and that was the best way to do it. So that was the birth of Stoke for Life in 2015. And through that process, we've done numerous surf camps and a few paddle camps, and started the U.S. Open Adaptive Surfing Championships. And yeah, we've come a long way.
And can you explain the name Stoke for Life for people who maybe don't know what that word Stoke means? Can you kind of give us the background on that?
Sure. Well, the word stoke is kind of like how you stoke the fire. It's something that you enjoy doing, and you want to enhance it by breathing life into it. So the name Stoke for Life, nobody that's disabled is stoked for life. They're not stoked for life. They have to have a stoke for life to kind of get through it and kind of push through it. So that's where the name kind of originated from. The name basically was, through all the adaptive athletes and the people that I met, was that these people, they had a certain stoke for life to kind of do what they were doing and push through and achieve all the things that they were achieving. Unfortunately for me, I didn't connect with the disabled community until I did Battle of the Paddle, which was 25 years into my injury. I didn't know
Mm.
any disabled people. I worked a corporate job. I lived a regular life as a guy in a wheelchair. I just didn't know any disabled people for a quarter of a century. But once I got introduced to my community, it was really, I was missing out. I was missing out on all the amazing people and all the opportunities and all the amazing sports and organizations, and all the things that were happening around the world for disabled athletes and adaptive athletes. I was really missing out. So I just dove right in. I kind of said, "Hey, man, these are my people," and they said the same thing. You're one of us. So they welcomed me with open arms, and so I just got to work. I kind of got to work to where I feel I could help people, and designing boards and helping them get on the honored ability board and teaching people how to paddle and proper technique. And I'd been surfing my whole life basically, and adaptive surfing came really easy to me. It really did. Once I got on a wave ski, it was really easy, because all the knowledge that I had from the water never went away. Even though I didn't surf, I stayed connected to the ocean and fishing and doing different things and swimming. And when I got on a wave ski, it just really translated, and all of my water knowledge came right back. It just never left me. So, a lot of people, when they get on a wave ski and they get out in the water and learn how to surf, they have to learn the where to be, where not to be, how to paddle into a wave, how to tell which way to go. There's a lot of nuances to surfing, and that stuff never left me. So once I got on a board, I just jumped on it and started surfing at a pretty high level. Was able to compete at a high level, and won a West Coast championship in my second year, and represented the U.S. and at the ISA level, and in my third year, and by my fifth year of surfing, I developed the U.S. Open Adaptive Surfing Championships, which is a professional platform, and it's the only adaptive surf well, at the time it was the first adaptive surf contest to give away prize pool purse to all podium finishers. Now we've developed a bigger platform that a lot of the contests do that now.
Wow, that's all really an incredible journey. And I think you made a great point about the fact of, the power of community and how that can be so important for people, to just stay engaged as people with disabilities. So, you mentioned, I think, well, it is in something that you, in your questionnaire, you mentioned that you had acquired your disability in 1986, right? Which was just a few years before the ADA actually passed. So I'm curious to know, when did you learn about the ADA, and kind of what is your opinion of it, and how have you seen it, change your life, if at all, or open doors, figuratively and literally? Just curious on your thoughts about that.
Well, when I got injured in 86, I stayed a year in the hospital. So I didn't get out of the hospital until late 86. I got injured in February. I didn't get out of the hospital until late November, early December. So I spent almost a full 12 months in the hospital, and getting around in 86, 87, people's reaction to a, 18, 20-year-old guy was, I think I just turned 20 at that time, or 19. And it just, the reaction that people would give me was, seeing a physical guy in a chair that was trying to do things was kind of strange. But the ADA part of it, curb cuts and that kind of stuff, because I was out just doing things out in the outdoors. It was real important to have accessibility, just even the minor accessibility of being able to go up and down a curb on a street, let alone, being able to get into a bathroom. Going out to dinner or going out with the family and friends and not being able to access a bathroom was a huge problem in the late 80s and the early 90s, when people were starting to like really have to abide by the ADA rules, and having to change the structure of their businesses so it could include disabled people. And some people had already jumped on that train, and through guilty by association, some people knew people in chairs and wanted to include them in their businesses. So some local businesses had accessibility, but there was I would say in the 80 percentile of if not the 90 percentile of businesses didn't have accessibility. I didn't know any better. It was the place that I grew up in, and not having accessibility was kind of the early stages of my disability. So it was kind of just learning, popping curbs and going downstairs became kind of a normal thing for me. Being able to go down 4 or 5 stairs, popping a wheelie and just doing that became kind of a necessity, where people were kind of freaking out, like, I don't do that, don't do it. And I'm like, well, are you going to carry me down the stairs, or do I got to kind of navigate this myself? But through the years, as the 90s went on, more accessibility became prevalent, and it became a lot easier to access the places that I wanted to go. So yeah, it's a great thing, and it's spread across the world. This year, our adaptive surf contest went to Costa Rica, and Costa Rica passed a law last year that they had to be accessible and at least have accessible ramps in all the businesses and all the communities. So as we were cruising around Costa Rica, even though some of the ramps were very, very steep, a majority of the places in Costa Rica had accessibility ramps to the stores, to the hotels, to the sidewalks, which was great, because I've traveled as a surfer and as a fisherman, traveling around the world fishing and surfing. You get to places like Mexico and some of the third world countries where the fishing is great and the surf is really good. The accessibility is not so great and not so good. So to have a place like Costa Rica really jump in on it and really buy into it for their local businesses and their neighborhoods and in their rural areas, it was really cool. So yeah, the ADA has set that standard, and it's now spreading across different countries, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, I love that. So, you mentioned that one of the things that Stoke for Life is passionate about is kind of talking more about and advocating more for accessibility in those beach and waterway communities. Can you tell me more about just kind of what the needs are, and, kind of maybe in an ideal world, some of the ways that those, areas could be more accessible?
Sure. So I mean, everybody that knows somebody in a wheelchair knows that wheelchairs and sand aren't compatible. So, if you're an adaptive surfer and you want to go to the beach, your first challenge is how to get across the sand. So, through some awesome technology, there's been a few beach mats that have been placed, and some of those beach mats are access tracks, and Access Rec makes weatherproof mats that are almost permanent. They can nail them down and they can spike them down on a beach, where they come in 30-foot increments, and a lot of times you'll just get that 30 feet, or maybe they'll span two of them together, where you can get 60 feet down onto the sand. And then you're kind of got to pick, you want to sit on the left or the right of this thing. And then, but at the very least, it gives you accessibility to get on the sand with your family or with your friends, or it gives you a little bit of a way where you can get down and go, get closer to the water before you start your trek into launching yourself in the water. What we really want to advocate for is opening up more beaches. And when I say waterway communities, anybody that's in a rural area with a lake or an inlet or something like that, where there's just no accessibility through the gravel or the dirt or the grass or whatever it is that you got to wheel through, or go with a walker or any kind of crutches or anything like that, it becomes more difficult. So what we're advocating for in our beach and waterway communities is for them to have awareness of okay, we need to at least have one spot where we can have access for people in wheelchairs or people with disabilities. Unfortunately, there's, our town of Oceanside that I live in is really bought into, the disabled community, and they sponsor the Adaptive Surfing Professional World Tour, and they're really advocating for making the beach accessible here. But the next town over is Carlsbad, and it's a very rich town. It's got a lot of money. There's not one accessible beach in Carlsbad, nor is there one accessible bathroom in the community of Carlsbad that's on the beach. So you either have to go down a really big giant hill and get to the bathroom down on the beach on the strand, which you got to have somebody else push you back up that big hill, or your options are to go into a store, or become a consumer of some store or a restaurant to go in there to use their bathrooms. There's no public bathrooms in Carlsbad that are accessible. So it's been kind of a battle. They've had a class action lawsuit that they've been putting off for years. Actually lost the suit, but they've been putting off the construction of the bathroom for over 20 years through appeals. So there's a bathroom at Tamarack, and it's a state park. Hundreds of people go there, if not thousands of people go there. I'm sure hundreds of people with disabilities go there. I lived a block from that place for 10 years, and unfortunately, it's still inaccessible. And even though they've lost a class action lawsuit, they still refuse to fix the bathroom through appeals. So it's these are the kind of things that for us as water people, everybody has the right to go to the beach, and everybody has the right to be in the ocean. It's not, there should be no prejudice there of like, hey, we don't have a place for you to use the restroom, or we're going to embarrass you and make you cath out in public, or cath in a bathroom that doesn't have a handicap stall. You're just going to have to sit out in the open and do it when there's, maybe 10 or 15 people at the beach in the bathroom at the same time during the summertime. It's very packed. So it's a struggle, that we've been trying to get through, but, it's continuing. And I'm sure that there's a lot of other beach and waterway communities that people face the same problems. The best way to combat that is to go to your city council meetings and go to your city council members and advocate to those people, and show up at the meeting and be a voice. And be a loud voice, and don't go to just one meeting and get shot down. If you get shot down at one meeting, go to the next month's meeting and bring 5 more disabled people with you and have them be a voice. And the louder you are, the more they'll pay attention.
Good advice. So, you mentioned that you had spent quite a long time kind of disconnected from the disability community, and then you were able to connect back in. And I wonder, what do you wish you had kind of known during those years that you weren't connected into the disability community about the disability community that you know now?
I wish I would have paid attention, and just and introduced myself sooner,
Mhm.
because there's so many badass people in the community, and there's so many warriors and so many righteous people that are such great energy and doing such positive work. Not that I was just living a normal life and working in a corporate world, and just as a normal person, trying to get by. Realistically, I was a disabled person trying to get by in a normal world. And it brought a lot of issues. And for me, my mom said it best. She said, you just didn't realize you were disabled. Your friends and family just embraced you, and you went back to your normal life. And that's what happened. I didn't get ostracized by any of my friends, or all of my friends just accepted my new life, and were very caring, and embraced me. So I didn't know any better. I just was like, okay, cool. I'll just go back to my life and go living, and that's what I did. But, once I realized that my people, my whole community was out there, and they were amazing, and they were doing awesome work. And there was people that, yeah, they're doing work, but then there was people that needed help too, and there's people that were struggling. And my experiences were, I don't know. Some people are just built for this, and I feel like I'm kind of one of those guys that's kind of built to have a lot of weight on their shoulders and carry it around, and unload it when it needs to be unloaded for other people to learn, and recognize. And I wish I could have got started a lot earlier in my work with the disabled community, and Not to say that I have regrets. I don't. My life was, it was always a great life, and I always worked a good job and learned a lot of the things that help me now through working in a corporate world, having a nonprofit and doing the things that I'm doing and having to write documents and different things and budgeting and, all the kind of stuff that I learned in the corporate world really helped me in developing my own business. But, I really wish I could have met some of these people earlier, and I really wish I could have got started in some of my work a little earlier. But I'm at where I'm at, and for a good reason, and we're blessed to be able to do the work that we're doing at the level we're doing it at, and realistically, we're really blessed to have the support and the belief that a lot of people have in Stoke for Life and what our work is and our mission. We've had a lot of people believe in it, and we've had a lot of good results. So, just a little bit earlier to maybe help more people would have been a better thing for me.
Well, you're here now, so that's the most important thing. So this is a question I love to ask all of our guests. What would you say to listeners who are feeling defeated right now, either because of a personal struggle, an athletic challenge, or some other current events?
Self-love and belief in yourself is a really hard thing to do when you're down in the dumps, but nobody can believe in you if you don't believe in yourself. If you don't have any love for yourself, and how can you share that love, and how can you give it out to anybody else? So first I would say look within, and love yourself, and look in the mirror and see the warrior that sits there. And it's not easy to sit in a chair, or to be disabled, or lose a limb, or to have mental struggles, or any of those things. They're not easy. So it's anybody that's mucking through it is a warrior, and iron sharpens iron, man. So if you see somebody like that, that's where it's just don't give up. If you've made it one day, the rest of your life is only one day. You wake up and it's just one day, and then you go to sleep, and then you wake up and it's just one day. So if you can make it through yesterday, you can make it through tomorrow. And that's kind of my philosophy, is you know is loving yourself. It all starts with loving yourself. And even though my body's broken and bruised and scarred up, and this is my vessel, and I love it, and I love the work that I do. And I just had a flap surgery where I'm still recovering right now, and I just was in the hospital for 30 days of bed rest. I had to be on an anti-gravity bed for 30 full days, and I've only been home for 2 weeks, and I'm still in my chair for 4 or 5 hours, and then I got to get out of the chair for a few hours, and I can't do a lot of the physical things for a whole nother month. I can't get in the water. I've been out of the water for almost 4 months now, but I know that I love myself enough to give myself the grace to heal, to recover, and to start over. And sometimes those are the steps that you have to do, but it all starts with loving yourself, and giving yourself that grace, and understanding this is a struggle for all of us. There's not one of us that's disabled or living with a disability, or a mental struggle or an ailment, that's not going through the shit. And excuse my language, but it's just, it is. And we're all dealing with something, and nobody else's is bigger than anybody else's. It's all the same. And that's what I try to tell people is, you might look at me and say, I would never want to be like that. But dealing with underprivileged youth and foster youth, and maybe seeing somebody that's went through physical or sexual abuse, I might look at that and go, I can't deal with that, but I could deal with this. You know what I mean? And that person might look at me and go, I can deal with my thing, but I can't deal with that. It's everybody's struggle is a struggle, and nobody's struggle is less or more than anybody else's. They're all our struggles. And the more that we can love ourselves and give ourselves some grace, and find self-love and self-healing, then it makes it a little bit easier to get through it. It also makes it a lot easier to spread that love and spread that healing to other people. And the more that you love yourself, you have a well of love that can overflow for other people. And that's where it starts.
Well, that's really powerful, and I appreciate you sharing your philosophy with us. So is there anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners as we wrap up today? Anything that we didn't ask that we should have?
Not that you didn't ask anything. I just, if anybody's looking for, there's a whole adaptive world out there. And for the people that are newly injured, that think that possibly all of this has been taken away from them, Look outside of that and see High Fives Foundation, see Stoke for Life, see Life Rolls On, see Access Surf Hawaii, see all of these, adaptive surf projects, and look at all these nonprofits, Challenge Athletes Foundation. Look at all these places that will give you the opportunity to discover new sports: bike riding, adaptive climbing, adaptive surfing, adaptive paddling, adaptive fishing, dirt bike riding, dune buggy racing, return to dirt, all these programs that are available for people with disabilities. Life is not over when you get disabled. It's a new life, and it's a new opportunity, and it's a great new adventure. And you're going to struggle just like in your regular life, but man, you're going to have the opportunity to really meet a bunch of really awesome people, and you're going to have the opportunity to do a whole bunch of awesome things. So, for those people that are newly disabled, man, don't give up. Look outside and see that there's a whole world out there for you, that you're going to be able to embrace and get out and do things. And the world's still out there waiting for you. And the other thing is that they might feel that they lost a part of themselves. The same old you is still there, man. It's just a new process, and that's it. But the old you is still in there, and you've not changed. You just have to find a new process to be able to do the things that you love doing. And in doing that and finding that, you'll find some new things that you love, and you'll find some new things about yourself that you're going to love. So just don't give up, man. And I'm here. The ocean's waiting for you. Look me up, man. I'll get you out in the water.
Yeah, and if people want to get in touch with you or learn more about Stoke for Life, what would be the best place for them to do that?
You can go to stokeforlife.org. You can go to US Open Adaptive Surfing Championships.com. There's a few places you can look us up on Instagram at Stoke for Life. Yeah, and drop us a line at stokeforlifefoundation@gmail.com. And if you have any questions, or you're longing to get in the water, or you want to do some things, look us up, man. We're here to help you, and we're here to change your life.
Great. Well, thanks again for your time today, Charles.
Absolutely. I appreciate you guys giving us the opportunity to share. And thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Adventures in Accessibility. Tune in next time for another dive into the unknown.
Adventures in Accessibility is hosted by Emily Schumann, and Jessica Lucinia is our sound engineer. This podcast is a project of the Rocky Mountain ADA Center and is funded under a grant from the National Institute on Disability, Independent Living, and Rehabilitation Research, grant number 90DPAD0014. This production is intended solely for entertainment and informal guidance and should not be considered legal advice. The opinions expressed by guests are not necessarily held or endorsed by the Rocky Mountain ADA Center.